Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick, and we got Harrison with us right now. How we doing, Harrison?
Good. Working through some tech support issues, but we're good.
Yeah, Sean is going to join us here eventually. Since Chrome did a whole bunch of updates, like it's been a mess trying to get him on.
So,
And if you watched last week, like his audio was a little bit messy, so we're working through that. So hopefully he's downloading a new browser and he'll join us here soon. So
yeah,
that's
it's a Safari issue. So for
Yeah.
those of you who are Mac users, if you've got a Mac right now that's acting a little weird, apparently there was some Safari updates a couple weeks ago that have broken a number of things. Apparently our podcast is one of them. So
yeah, awesome. Before we get going, just and share our Facebook page. You can chat with us all you want. We post articles all week. You can also subscribe on YouTube and follow along there. Okay, leading off tonight, let's just bring up the whole Juan Soto issue here.
The
Hot
sweepstakes.
stove, like the sweepstakes, like absolutely insane here. So just got a report that there's 13 teams in on. Oh, thanks, Mom. Yes, it is my birthday podcast today. So thank
It's
you.
the birthday pod.
But yeah, there's like 13 teams officially in on this Juan Soto sweepstakes, and it's just like it's insane. I mean, I can't even venture a guess on where he's gonna go.
No, and there's no clear front runner here, and apparently the Nationals want to include a couple of dead contracts in it. So if you want Soto, you're going to take a couple of bad contracts, and they're trying to use this as a way to, I think, cleanse the system of some mistakes they've made.
Well, that's the thing. So their new ownership group is coming in, and the new ownership group wants to they completely want to start over. So they don't want this Juan Soto thing hanging over their heads as they're coming in. They want it dealt with before they even get in, which, I mean, I kind of don't blame them.
No, I wouldn't want to inherit that mess either.
But I've also heard that their first priority right now is Josh Bell, is getting him out, and then they'll turn and focus on Juan Soto.
Well, yeah. And then apparently they want Patrick Corbin included in any kind of Juan Soto trade because they want to dump that contract. This is like a full-on purge of that roster.
This is the Red Sox getting rid of Carl Crawford and Adrian Gonzalez and all those. It's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's exactly what this move is.
Yeah. You want the better player of the bunch. You're taking all these guys. Well, it's like when they dumped David Price with Mookie Betts. Like, here's a great chance to get rid of a contract we don't want anymore. You want Mookie? Great. You're going to take this baggage with it. Exactly, pretty common. 100%. But and for the new ownership group coming in, maybe a clean slate's what they need. That organization's in rough shape, financially strapped in all kinds of bad ways with all the deferred money they've got on the books. You know, they're going to have to tear it down, probably run a minor league roster for a couple of years, get some of these financial problems behind them, and then build it back up again. But really, I mean, Juan Soto might be the best trade target in the history of baseball. And
he's 23. He's 23 years old. Like, who wouldn't be all in on this? I mean, it's crazy.
I don't disagree. I mean, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure what team shouldn't be in on this, but you've still got 2 more years of arbitration, so it's not like you're trading for a 3-month rental player. Like, he's got 2 more years of arbitration eligibility.
Yeah, you got 3 more playoff runs with him right now.
Yep.
It's crazy. I mean, it is funny because like one night they're like, oh, it's the Cardinals. The Cardinals have the best trade package, and then the next night they're like, nope, he's going to the Padres. Like, the Padres got it. And then it's like, oh, wow, he's going to go to the Rangers with Corey Seager. And it's like, okay, like, I get it. Like, 15 teams are in on this guy. Like we said, like, who wouldn't be?
Well, and what's confusing is I can't tell how many of these are, like, actual trades that have been proposed and, like, trades that are being proposed by the media because they think it'd be fun to talk about what somebody might offer. Because there's so much around there going out right now over the wire through various media sources, and I'm not sure how much of it's even real.
Exactly, 100%. How are we doing? Can you hear us, Sean?
I can hear you. Yeah, you got me.
Ooh, there we go.
He's back.
Let's go.
Goddamn fucking nightmare, man. Holy shit.
Love it.
All right, Sean, so where's Juan Soto going? Go.
Jesus, where's he going? It's not many teams that can give up what they're looking for. You know, I mean, the Mets and Yankees. The last I've heard is the Mets and Yankees aren't willing to give up the prospects that the Nationals want to start with.
Yep.
And aside from that, like, I mean, who are the teams that legitimately have the capital to go do it?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, they've said the Cardinals possibly, the Padres possibly, but you're going to have to give away major league talent too, major league ready talent. There's no way around
but
it.
I also think like I could see him still absolutely going to one of the two New York teams, and I think it's just business wise, right? Like if you're Cohen with the Mets or you're the Steinbrenners and all the people making the decision with the Yankees and the Cardinals and all those teams, like if no one's willing to give the top 3 prospects and all the first round picks, like they're going to have to come off their asking price or they're going to lose them for nothing. So like they're going to have to come back to the table with a more reasonable offer. So like I could still see him going to one of those two New York teams, but I think it's going to be an August 1st type of thing. Like I think it's going to be right up to the deadline. Like I don't see him going anytime before that.
Yeah.
No, and I think it might be hard for one of those New York teams or like LA to pull this off because the Nationals aren't going to want a major league contract at a big fat salary coming back.
Right.
They're going to want just a boatload of prospects. So for one of these teams to be able to unload a major league player that maybe offset some of the salary they're taking on, the Nationals aren't going to want them. Because like if I'm the Dodgers, I'd be happy to send you Cody Bellinger and everybody else I got to slide Juan Soto into the outfield and call it a day. You know, same with the Mets or the Yankees. There's got to be guys there you'd be happy to move on from. You know, Aaron Hicks, dump him off and find a home for Juan Soto. But like they're not going to want a contract of that size because they're not saving anything by making that move. They're just going to want a boatload of prospects.
Right. Which is fair. You know, which is fair, and I get that. But I think that's also why the Mets initially balked when it said, you know, Alvarez from behind the plate, Brett Beatty, and they had like 2 or 3 other guys that they're listening, and the Mets are just like, no, that's a non-starter. Like we're not, you know. And again, I know we talked about it. I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, but it's like, you know, you can obviously look at it and say, oh, the Nationals are never going to trade him in division. However, from the other side of that coin, though, is I might be giving you my best player for the next 10 years, but if I can completely deplete your farm system and strengthen mine in the process, that might be worth doing it. Right? Like, so I think that's another reason why the Nationals are probably going to be a little bit harder with a team like the Mets or, you know, even a team like the Cardinals that are in the National League. Like, I think they'd be I don't know about much more willing, but if I'm them, I'd be more willing to maybe be a little bit more lenient on the pricing of what I get back if he's going to the American League.
Yeah.
But especially if he's in division, but definitely staying in the same league, like the perk of me I'll give you Juan Soto, but I'm depleting your farm system. I'm making you start from scratch. So we'll see.
What do you guys?
We'll see.
What do you guys think of the Nationals' stance that Patrick Corbin has to be involved in any deal Soto's in? Do you love it, hate it, not care?
Like you said earlier, if their goal is to dump payroll, they're going to try to attach, you know, a David Price to any contract, like we just said. Like that, they're going to just get rid of everybody they can that they're paying. Like, if we're paying you over $2.5 million, you're going in this deal. Sorry. Like,
but it's one of those things though, too, where it's like that they say that's their hard and fast stance. Like that's hard coded for them. Yeah. But that's going to depend on the trade partner. Like a team like the Mets, they can take that on. Right. They can take that salary on. They can pay that salary. They can cut the guy. Like that's not going to matter. But, you know, you start getting into some of those teams that, like, care about money like most teams should. The Mets just don't. But, like, you start getting into a team where if Patrick Corbin is the deal breaker, then they might have to eat that salary. They might have to say, fuck it.
Yeah, and Corbin's two more years at a total commitment of $60 million. So
I was going to say, Jesus.
So it's a hefty chunk of change you're going to have to choke down of. Really, I mean, but at the same time, maybe Corbin's not a terrible pitcher if he goes and pitches for the better team around him. I don't know. He's not been good since they won it all, but you know, he's also not trash. That's a guy that's still got stuff.
Yeah, and it's also there's plenty of examples of those guys that were the forced throw-ins that end up being huge pieces. Where sometimes you just need a new place, you just need a new home, you just kind of need a new venue and a new situation around you, and you're fine. And I definitely could see Corbin being one of those guys too, because like you said, I mean, he's not trash yet.
No.
And there's two more years left on that deal, and again, that's 2 years of a pretty good pitcher that's done pretty good stuff. That really could probably make a difference. So it's just a lot of money. Like that's a lot of money for him.
Yeah. All right. So shot in the dark here. Where does he go? Got to pick a place. Where does he go? I'm saying he goes here.
Yeah.
I say he goes to San Diego with Machado and Tatis. That's my long shot in the dark. I mean, but let's be honest, the Yankees are probably going to end up with him. But that's just what it is. I mean,
yeah.
What about you, Harrison? Do you have an idea? Shot in the dark?
Honestly, I'm going to go out on a limb and go way off the deep end here and say he doesn't get moved before August 1.
I was going to say that.
I don't think the Nationals are going to get a package they want, and they're just not going to do anything.
All right. Okay. I mean, that's probably the biggest. Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. And
I think they're asking too much. I think that teams are going to inquire, kick the tires, maybe throw some proposals at him. But I actually think with 6 days left, I don't think he moves. I think he's still with them at the end of the year, and maybe they're going to need the offseason to put a deal like this together. He's arbitration eligible. Yeah. He's going to get a big number. I don't think there's enough pain for the Nationals to make a move just yet. But in the offseason, you could put together a really big package because you're going to need time to work that out. Because this might end up being 3 teams. It's there's going to be a lot of capital that goes back and forth in terms of. Draft. There's going to be draft picks. There's going to be minor leaguers. There's going to be major leaguers. There's going to be some cash considerations. It's going to be all of it.
It's going to be a winter meetings deal, most likely. Now that we're actually going to have a winter meeting, since there's no strike, hopefully in the off season.
And I think Harrison, I think you propose an interesting idea that, especially if it goes into the winter meetings, that third team that becomes involved makes it real interesting in the sense that like now you can get real creative with, hey, this is the team that we're going to use to eat up the salaries. That's the team that's going to get the draft picks in consideration for eating the salaries. This is the team that's going to get Juan Soto. This is going to be the third team that maybe gets a couple major league guys that are 1 or 2 pieces away. Like I'm thinking, like a St. Louis Cardinals. Like if the Cardinals don't address shortstop position in the next 6 days, that's got to be their number one. That's got to be their number one off-season situation. And if they can't land Bogaerts, let's say Bogaerts is a free agent and doesn't sign, although supposedly there's now these rumblings that he wants to restart his talks with the Red Sox. I don't know. But let's say they can't do that. Well, now St. Louis to me is a team that could enter that as the third team and maybe get a shortstop from whoever the second team is. So it could certainly get interesting if it ends up in the winter meetings.
Well, the nice thing too is with that third team, now the Nationals can cherry pick a couple prospects from each team, get 3 or 4 really solid prospects, not completely raid any one team's farm system, and then you're shuttling cash and other stuff around. So, and they could also include other players. Maybe that's when a guy like Josh Bell goes too, or who knows. But I just this is a really big trade to put together in a week.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
So while we're on the topic of big names being moved, Aaron Judge pretty much says in an interview that he's not coming back to New York. Do we believe it? Is he going to move? Where do we think?
I'm not so sure you think, is that how you kind of took that?
I did, honestly.
Yeah.
I think he kind of like scoffed at the numbers that the Yankees threw at him, and he's like, yeah, I think I'm good. And I mean, because the Yankees should be unloading as much as they need to keep that guy in New York.
Yeah.
The type of guy he is, the type of player he is.
I don't disagree with that.
Judge should go into the office, say a price, and they should just sign off on it. There's just zero reason why Judge should even have any question in his head about a number. You know what I mean? They shouldn't lowball this guy at all. Why are you playing hardball with him? No, he's Like,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, I will say the one thing with not to, I can't believe I'm taking the side of like Yankees management, but I think like the reason why like everyone is scoffing at this right now is because of the season that Judge is having that he's in the middle of. I mean, it's clearly American League MVP season. I mean, he's on. I don't know if he's directly on pace, but he's got to be damn close if he's not on pace to break
He's
Roger
30,
Maris'
37 home runs,
Yankee
dude. He
record,
hit
right?
fourth
I
this
mean,
weekend, right?
Maris had 61. He's going to get to 62 at least, right? So
Oh, 100%.
he's going to have triple-digit RBIs. He's going to blow that through the water. He's going to have 135, 140 RBIs. He's going to have 60-something home runs. And he's a damn good outfit. Like, he's having a great season, MVP season. I think that's the reason why everyone's like, why are they lowballing him? Why are they lowballing him? But I wonder if the Yankees, like, I'm not so sure I would do it much differently. It's like, listen, you're having a great season, but every other season leading up to this, you can't stay healthy. And, like, you always get hurt. And you've been that guy that gets off to great Aprils and great Mays, and then you miss June and July, and then you come back in August when we're out of it. Like, that's been his MO aside from this year. So is he worth the contract he's asking for? Yeah, probably. But I almost wonder if the Yankees are like, listen, man, this is what we're offering you now, as of an extension now. Go finish the season, play a full season, win the MVP, come talk to us after the year. You know, like, I could see a situation like that in which, like, I feel like that's reasonable. I have no idea if that's happening, but I feel like that, like, looking at that from the Yankees' point of view, I feel like is reasonable. He's always hurt, dude. He's always hurt. And you think a guy like this that has an MVP season is going to sign a ticket for $1 trillion? I guarantee you he gets hurt next year. I guarantee you, wherever he is, whether he's in New York or whether he's somewhere else, he gets hurt next year. Guaranteed.
Yeah, that's and you know the only thing I'd point out to along the same lines of the season he's having is that he's having this season in the face of a season where offense is way down. Like, the ball's not traveling, offense is down, and he's having this kind of a season in the midst of what looks like a retro season, which is pretty impressive. But I agree. Aaron Judge scares me over the long term. This guy's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons with the Yankees. He's played in 155 games, 112, 102. He only played in 28 of the COVID season games. He played in 148 last year, and he's on pace to play in about 148 again this year. So, basically, he's missed a third or more of the season in half the seasons, and he's played nearly the whole season in the other half. So, the Aaron Judge of this year, he's definitely worth that $35 or $40 million a year contract. Aaron Judge over the last 6, you kind of have to hedge your bet a little bit and figure you're going to get some $40 million seasons and some $25 million seasons. So maybe he's a $32.5 million or $35 million player, because you got to count on the fact he's going to have those seasons he misses significant time, because that's his MO.
Yeah.
And at the same time, too, it's only July 25th. He could go out and hurt himself tomorrow and miss August and September. I mean, he has. I think he's got to prove. I think he's got to prove he's going to make it through another big season.
Sure, but I'll lean on giving him the benefit of the doubt for this year. Like, he seems like he's he's showing up, he's playing every day, he's playing up and showing up in big moments. Like, it could be a freak injury. Who knows? I mean, sports is all about freak injuries, but typically for him, it's the pulled hamstrings or it's the groins or he breaks a foot with foul ball. Like, it's like those kinds of injuries. But I mean, we'll see. I could see the Yankees definitely telling him to go to the market. I could definitely see some team offering him whatever the number is, and then I could see him going back to New York and the Yankees matching that and him staying in New York. Like, I didn't take that necessarily, Nick, as like, I don't want to be in New York. When the question was asked, the way he answered it, I almost took it as like, well, like, we'll just, as he said, we'll see what happens. Like, we'll see. Yeah. Like, I don't think he's going to take a hometown discount for them, but I don't think he's going to make it impossible for them to re-sign him either. Like, I think it's all going to be about, like, I'll give you my number in the offseason, and if you guys want to match it, I'm happy to stay. And if you don't, I'll see you around.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think the Yankees are going to be the front runner for him to stay. I mean, he's just too big of an icon there now, and the names that he's put next to already, like, puts it in perspective, like where he is in Yankees lore already, and he's only 6 years in. Like,
I will say, I will say now, I'm sure it won't sway management too much, but the Yankee fan base and the Yankee faithful, dude, if that team gets bounced in the second round and he has like a bad playoffs, they're gonna be like, I don't give a shit, like go, because like that's been the thing, man, with this team the past few years is like guys like Judge, guys like Stanton. Although Judge and Stanton actually weren't terrible against
Stanton has been amazing in the playoffs, dude. That guy has done nothing but break in the playoffs.
But it's the Garrett Coles hasn't been good. Like I think they're starting to get fed up with these guys making all this money and then not doing anything when it matters.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, only one team gets to win the World Series. I mean, if they win the American League and they lose to whoever in the National League, I mean, there's only so much you can do. I mean, it's so if he shows up in the postseason, I think they'll be begging him. But if this guy has an MVP season and wins the American League MVP and then goes out and, you know, hits 125 in the postseason, I don't think they're going to give a shit. I think they're going to be like, dude, go. Get your money, go.
See, I can see it both ways because I think if they another team comes in and just blows the Yankees offer out of the water and the Yankees are like, yeah, we're not going to match that, I think New York burns. Like the fan base will go after the Yankees. You know what I mean? Like they will be like, what the hell? Like we haven't won. Why aren't we keeping this guy? Kind of like the Red Sox fans right now with Xander and Devers. We're just like, what is the holdup? Why aren't you guys trying to do everything to keep them here? Like, why is it up to the player to reopen negotiations? Like, just sign him already. Like, I don't. Two homegrown guys. You already lost Mookie Betts. Like, I mean, I don't know. We'll get to that later. I'm sure.
But to go back to Judge for a second. So, if Mike Trout was a free agent this season, do you think he'd get the same contract he got 2 or 3 years ago?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it's Mike Trout. Even though he's been injury prone, like it's.
So, because the irony of it is that Mike Trout and Aaron Judge are almost exactly the same age. Like right now, they're almost exactly the same age. Difference is Trout signed that big deal when he was in his age 27 year. Judge is going to sign his big deal at ending his age 30 season, going into his age 31 season. So really, you know, you look at a 10-year contract with a guy like Judge, that's a 40-year-old guy at the back end of it. It's going to be hard to give a guy like that the kind of contracts that guys like Trout have gotten or that Soto's looking for because he's already 30. You know, Trout at 27 was established like Judge is at 30, so he's got some time working against him too. Where these guys are getting these 10-year contracts in their 20s. Bryce Harper signed his big deal in his age 28 season. You know, time isn't helping Judge either because he is older than those guys when he's going into that big contract.
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting, definitely. So I got some other names here that I want you to tell me if they're moving or staying, okay, at the trade deadline. Xander, staying or going?
I think he's staying.
Okay. JD Martinez.
There's nowhere to send him.
Yeah, staying.
Guy looks like he's 50. I mean, he's done. I mean, he should retire after this season, to be honest. He looks done.
Luis Castillo.
Ooh.
He's moving.
Yeah, the question is
Bronx?
where, though?
I think the Bronx. I think that's where he goes.
To the Yankees?
Yep. I think he's going to the
Really?
Bronx. Yeah. If the Red Sox were in contention, which we all know they aren't, and we'll get there eventually, but I think he ends up in the Bronx, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody right now is talking about Castillo. It's between the Yankees and Dodgers. But there's been some rumblings that the Rays are actually inquiring about him. I think that would be sick to see the Rays go make a trade like that. They've never made a trade like that.
Right. Josh Bell, moving or staying at the deadline?
I think he's a great value.
He is.
I've heard the Mets are the front runners to get him, and they'll platoon him with Vogelbach because he's a switch hitter.
I mean, that's.
I've also heard Trey Mancini could possibly be that platoon player for the Mets.
I've heard Trey Mancini he's approaching this Tampa Bay series as if it's his last 4 games at Camden Yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Bell's 29. The guy hits dingers. He's relatively sturdy. He plays a lot of games.
What's his contract situation?
Josh Bell. He's a free agent at the end of this year, so he's a rental.
So
He's a rental.
it's a rental.
For
I mean,
sure.
you're
He's
going to
on the
be able
move.
to. You can get a guy like that relatively cheap. I mean, and that's a guy that's a switch hitter that can hit dingers. That is a decent glove when you put him at first base. Like, he's not great, but like he's fine. Like for half a season for a team that's, I mean, that's, to me, I think Washington would be dumb not to.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Benintendi is pretty much in pinstripes. Yes.
Yeah,
No?
I thought he already
seems
was
that way.
the way they've been talking about it.
Right. CJ Crone has also been talked about with the Rockies. Does he stay or does he go? I mean, I think that one's a tough one because the Rockies are in last, but the Rockies just do nothing.
Hadn't he signed? Like, what's his contract number? Doesn't he have a couple years left?
Free agent at the end of next year.
So the end of
okay. I was gonna say, all right. So
it'll take a little bit more.
I think the hard part for Crone and Bell is that when you look at the teams that are still in contention, there's not a lot of teams that need a first baseman.
Exactly.
There's just not a lot. I mean, the Red Sox need a first baseman, that's for sure. But are they in contention? I don't know. It depends on the week. But it's hard because there's so many good first basemen out there right now, and a lot of those playoff teams are solid there, and it's not a big position in need.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get that. So it'd be interesting. But you have that DH position. You could always shuffle it around. Those guys, it's just an extra stick in the lineup, and good bats. But also, last night I was watching Sunday Night Baseball, and they mentioned Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ from the Cubs might be on the move too, and heard possibly San Diego's interested in those two.
Yeah, they're trying to get him as a package.
If they don't go as a package, I mean, if Wilson Contreras, I mean, to me, that should be the guy the Mets are going after. I mean, the Mets need serious help behind the plate, offensive help behind the plate, and it is.
Tomas Nido's not doing it for you.
It is bad. James McCann was never the guy when they signed him last year, and all these people that said that was going to be a great signing, and I was one of them that I was, not a grip, but I was like, all right, James McCann, young guy can hit, should be just completely overmatched at the plate. Yeah. But the Mets aren't going to go hard after a catcher like Wilson Contreras, and I get that because they got this Francisco Alvarez at AAA that's absolutely raking. But why aren't they bringing him up? What is the reasoning for letting this kid continue to rake in AAA? You're struggling at the major league level, and I know we're going to start doing the second half predictions, but the Braves are telling you how real they are. They are showing you how real they are. You don't have any more wiggle room right now to start. I don't know if they're toying with service time. I don't know if there's anything like that to it. But this kid's proven that he can hit at AAA level. Let's see what he's got at the major league level. I mean, if not now, when? So
right.
But if they don't do that, Wilson Contreras to me is the guy because you need help. And if you want to make a deep playoff run and you want to win a World Series, you're going to need some kind of production from your catcher spot. You just have to have it.
And I'm impressed that the Mets have already been active. Cohen is showing that he is not afraid to give the okay to go make moves and spend money and bring in pieces. I mean, the Mets have already made 2 trades, and everybody else is looking up going, oh, crap, August is coming. And the Mets are already grabbing awesome depth pieces off of people's rosters that are, going to pay some dividends. And, the other rumor with Happ was that with Duvall going down for the Braves is that the Braves are calling about Happ. So, they may end up splitting them and send them a couple different directions. But it's Contreras would be a great pickup for, probably 27 teams. That would be a massive upgrade for.
I mean, I know we were kind of joking about it earlier this week in our group chat about Vogelbach, but I'll tell you what, he put a spark into the Mets last night.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, that guy is roly-poly, but he puts together solid at-bats. Every single at-bat he had last night was a quality at-bat.
Every at-bat this season has been a quality at-bat. He is a really good – he's a good hitter. And, I mean, people can get off me with 220 whatever batting average. Hey, this just in. It's hard to hit at the major league level. It's really, really difficult to hit at the major league level. But whether or not the numbers are there, like I don't get, all these exit velocity and this, that, or the other. Just eye test. You watch this guy at the plate, he puts up really good at bats. He fights off tough pitches. He knows the zone. He's not afraid to take a walk. He definitely has some pop if he needs to. But like, he's just the kind of guy that you want to have on your team. If you want to build a winning team, he's the kind of guy that fits right in. He fits right in. So I'm with you 100%.
4 at-bats last night, he saw 32 pitches himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had 8 pitch at-bats.
And he's on pace for like 75 Ks on the whole year. I mean, the guy, he reminds me a lot of Verdugo. He's not an easy out. He grinds a lot of at bats. Maybe doesn't hit for a ton of power or a high average, but he's not an easy out. He makes you earn it, and he puts the ball in play.
Yeah,
like those kind of guys will grind on you in a playoff series, and they'll make you crazy.
I mean, and I don't think I'm spilling state secrets here, but like, he's not legging out any infield singles, right? So
no.
I think part of that. When you have a guy that grinds out at bats like that, like a lot of those at bats end up with like balls in the hole or whatever that he's just not going to beat out. Verdugo's going to beat out maybe 1 out of every 3. Vogel's not beating any of them out. So, that's going to take a little bit of hit on the average, but there's things working against him. But again, eye test, you look at this kid at the plate and you watch him play baseball and you just think like, he knows what he's doing. Like he's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
well, what I love, he was like a kid at Christmas after that game. How excited he was to be in New York and the atmosphere. He loves it. It's great. It's so much fun. Like, I mean, he was all lit up. How excited he was to be in New York. Because I think being in Milwaukee, they've got a good team. They've got a decent fan base. It ain't New York though. Like that, it's a lot more electric, and a guy like that's going to feed off of it.
He was in Pittsburgh. He wasn't.
I'm sorry, Pittsburgh. I keep saying Milwaukee. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the other big guy.
I'm thinking of the other big guy in Milwaukee.
Rowdy Tellez. Yeah, Rowdy's in Milwaukee.
His twin there. Sorry, but in Pittsburgh, which you're just dying out there.
I mean, it's
but
going to be.
But Vogelbach was in Milwaukee too.
He was in Seattle before that.
No, Seattle, Toronto. It says I'm looking at his thing right here. He had a year and a half in Milwaukee.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Okay, so this is his first year in Pittsburgh. All right, I'm good. I'm just on a bit of a time delay here.
Milwaukee, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it could shape up to be a pretty good, decent trade deadline. I mean, those are the trades that put you over the top. It's those guys that come in, add a spark, grind out at bats, fit right in. They're excited to be there. Those are the guys that come in and make a difference. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about we were talking about how the team like the Mets should really go after a guy like Contreras, right? Like you need offensive production from behind the plate. Like that's where, like I'm not so sure. Like maybe with a free agent at the end of this year, like maybe Vasquez gets moved. Like maybe teams start calling about a guy like Christian Vasquez, who 3 years ago was an offensive liability, but he was supposed to be this, Pudge Rodriguez kind of guy behind the dish. And, he's fine defensively. Like I like him defensively, but like he's not, he's not the next coming, but he's all of a sudden a guy that can do more than just hold his own at the plate. Like you wonder if teams start calling about him. And if the Sox aren't going to be buyers, then be sellers. And I'm not saying you're going to sell everyone, but if you're not going to be buyers, then be goddamn sellers. Because I can't just have them just settle in this mediocrity and then end up losing half the guys in free agency anyways. So
let's just rip the Band-Aid off and just jump right into it, because this Red Sox team is, I mean, to put it bluntly, a fucking mess right now.
Atrocious. It is. I mean, I can't even watch him anymore. It's so bad. I can't watch Frenchie boot the ball in left field. I can't watch Jeter Downs throwing the guy's back. I can't watch Sawamura not cover first base correctly. Like, this team is abysmal. They are fundamentally unsound. They're not disciplined. Alex Cora should be fired. That roster's trash, and they should blow it up. Chuck a hand grenade, buy Cora, buy Bogey, buy JD. Any other pieces you want, take them and start over.
Sign Devers. But anyways, I mean,
I like them too.
I mean, the fundamental aspect of watching these guys right now is nauseating. I mean, they can't catch, they can't throw, they can't pitch. why Ryan Brazier still steps on the mound blows my mind. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. I'm lost for words. Like, I literally watch the games with a puke bucket in my hands because
I can't.
It's tough.
I can't even watch him anymore. I can't.
I don't know like where to go with them. And I mean, they had a chance to right the ship with this opening series with Toronto, and they just laid Toronto. Where's the stat? I wrote it down.
It's gross.
They were out. Toronto scored 50 runs in this series, 55 runs or something like that in this series. In a 4-game set, they scored 55 runs. Like, okay, granted, 28 were in the same game.
Right.
Oh, did I say 28 in the same game? I mean, I don't know. I don't know where the issue is, honestly. Is it in the clubhouse? Is it in the front office? Is it the players on the field? Is it a combination of all three? Like, is it Bogey and X, like all that hanging over their heads? Like, I don't know where it is.
I don't know. I'm a big Cora guy. I think it's hard for me though to not lay a chunk of this blame at his feet. I mean, I think look at the roster they put up in the lineup. I think that is a reflection of what Heim has given him. I think like you looked at today's starting lineup.
Oh,
they got Cleveland.
So sad,
right? And they there's 3 major league players in that 9.
It's a AAA team. It's
lineup.
bad.
I mean, there's 3 major league players, and so I don't think necessarily the Cora can be held responsible for that, but the fundamental just little leagueness of dropping pop-ups. You got. I mean, we didn't even mention the Jarren Duran inside the park.
That kid should be back in Worcester thinking about it,
buddy. I don't care that you lost the ball in the sun, in the lights, or in the whatever. However you lost it, you lost it. That shit happens, man. I mean, you watch enough baseball games, it happens.
Oh yeah.
It shouldn't, but it does. You then turn around and you just watch. You didn't hustle after the ball, didn't run after. You just watched, and then Verdugo's not even in the frame of the TV yet.
Close,
and he's just
for 10 seconds.
And he just stand there, and then you see Verdugo come sliding in like a bat out of hell, gets that ball in, and not once is there any ounce of hustle or anything like that from Jarren Duran. I don't know how you can go back to the dugout and look your teammates in the face. I don't know how you can do that. No. That is embarrassing. And shame on Cora he would have been back in Worcester that night.
Yep.
Dude, I don't care how many options he has. Yeah, well, absolutely. But I don't care how many options he has left. I don't care what his relationship with Chaim Bloom or any of that bullshit. I don't care. You do that on the field, you're essentially showing up your teammates saying that they're not worth your hustle. Oh, it's not worth it, guys. It's a lot to a little, so it's not worth hustle. That is bullshit. And I don't know how you can go back and look these guys in the face. And shame on Cora for putting him at the back of at the top of the lineup the next day. Not only is he not in Worcester, he's back in the starting lineup. He's back in center field, hitting first in the order.
And Duran led off the next inning. He ran back in the dugout, said, "Okay, I'll grab my helmet," and went back to the plate. That kid, if I'm Cora, when he comes back to the top step, I said, "Hey kid, grab your shit, go sit in the clubhouse. You're done. Don't come back out here." We'll talk about what the plan is for tomorrow. But
I literally would have walked out to center field myself after that play and grabbed them by the ear and just tugged them into the dugout the entire way.
Well,
legit.
The hard part is in this day and age. So a guy like Tony La Russa or Bobby Cox would have run a replacement out there the second the play was called dead and pulled him off the field middle of the inning. You do that to a kid nowadays, and you get crucified for hurting his feelings and hurting his spirit, which I think is BS. But at a minimum, when he comes in, you look at him and say, "Hey, you're done, kid. Get to the clubhouse, take a shower, and go home. I don't want to see you the rest of the night. Just get out of here."
Yeah, well, so to me, but that play itself was to me a culmination of just how loose and I think things are tough in the locker room. I'm not so sure the voice of Cora is gone. I don't think that it, they lost respect for Cora the way that I think they did with Francona back in the day.
Right.
But I do think it has come to a point in the locker room where it's we look around, we being JD Martinez and Xander and Raffy and Jackie Bradley, like we look around and we see what was given to us up there by Heim. And it's one thing to say that we think we can compete as a team. And then it's another thing to give us a dog shit lineup day in and day out. And I think that's probably where a lot of this locker room kind of, I wouldn't even call it dissension, but like frustration comes from. I don't think it's a Cora thing. I don't think they've lost the voice of Cora. I don't think they distrust their manager. I just think they're tired of having to get out there with Jeter Downs and Jarren Duran and Bobby goddamn Dahlbeck at first base. Like, I think they're just tired of it. And then they put Bobby over third base.
at first?
Well, I mean, whatever, dude. But like,
right.
And I get there are some parts where it's like, the part in Moneyball when Brad Pitt's all like pissed off because he's not playing. He's playing Carlos Pena. He's not playing Scott Hatterberg. And Art Howe or Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's like, I'm playing this team the way that I can explain in job interviews. It's almost like Cora's doing the same thing. It's almost like he's like, listen, I'm playing this team like the best way that I can like lay my head down and say that I gave us a chance to win.
Right.
And it's frustrating that like he's not given really any pieces to do that with. But again, with that nonsense of the Jarren Duran play, if they decided to clean house and if they made Cora part of it, I don't think I'd be that upset, because that is to let him play the rest of that game and to Harrison to let him grab a bat to lead off the next inning was disgusting.
I can't. And honestly, that actually made me go down the line even further and question a guy like Bogarts and Devers and those guys for not walking up to Cora going, dude, you got to do something here. Like, we don't play that way. Like, this whole team is completely just rolled over and said, whatever, our roster sucks, we're going to give up. And like we said all along, like, you make physical errors and stuff like that. It happens. You lose a ball in the lights, whatever, that happens. Most people don't realize how high those balls get hit out of the stadium over the lights and how many times. I mean, almost every pop fly you lose in the lights at some point. Then it comes back and you find it. But for him to stand there, Cora does nothing. The leadership of that team does nothing. The players do nothing. He's in the lineup the next day. That told me everything I need to know about this team. They don't care. Xander doesn't care. Devers doesn't care. JD doesn't care. Cora doesn't care. They're undisciplined. They are mentally inept. They can't cover first base. Like, this is a team that is not ready to go play baseball on a nightly basis. That's on Cora. The roster sucks. And this team, and I mean, I was the one right out of the gate that said, I don't see this as a playoff team. Because there's no good players. And they weren't supposed to be good last year either, but they got hot at the right time and made a run through the playoffs. We kind of got spoiled last year with a freebie. This is largely the same roster as last year. Swap out Bradley for Renfroe, which is that's a whole nother move that still makes no sense that killed them.
True, but I mean, you haven't had Kike for 3 months.
Well, yeah, and he was trash when he was playing. So you've
he was, but he was a better player than that. Like he was gonna find the upswing at some point. He was gonna level up and find his upswing.
Right.
So
right. So, I mean, I never saw this as a playoff team, but I thought they'd play better baseball. Like, I expect them to lose some games. I expect them to play better baseball. Maybe be fun to watch. They're not fun to watch. Like, do not.
Not now.
I've not watched the Red Sox game now in like 2 weeks. Can't do it. I won't do it. I will not give that team my time and energy to watch them play Little League baseball. I just can't do it.
I think it, like, you hit the nail on the head with like the lack of leadership in the clubhouse, because if you listen to David Ortiz's induction speech yesterday, which was awesome, by the way.
It was.
He talked about Dustin Pedroia grabbing him around the neck in the dugout and saying, if you pull the ball one more fucking time, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's the leadership that you want on a team. Like,
Dustin Pedroia needed to get on a step stool and jump up to his neck, but he did it.
Well, right, but it's still like it's that X factor, right? You have a leader on your team. Jason Varitek back in the day, he was the guy. Pedroia took it over. Like, he was that clubhouse guy. I don't feel like there's anybody in that clubhouse that has that leadership role right now, and it's apparent.
No, and I think for a little while there it was Chris Sale, because he is so vocal, but the damn guy hasn't been around in 2 years. Like, he hasn't even been there to be part of it.
And when he did, he just smashed his pinky on a line drive.
Right. And Bogarts, he was never a vocal guy. He'll never be a vocal guy. He is who he is. Devers seems to be a likable guy, a vocal guy. I thought JD Martinez would be the guy that would be whipping these guys into shape, and apparently he's a super quiet guy. Like you've got a clubhouse that, other than the music playing, probably is dead silent after a game. There's no person in that clubhouse, I think, that is getting this team going. I think they're coming in every morning. They're kind of slogging in, going through the motions, going home, calling it a day.
Yeah. And I think, it's Core is the manager. Core is responsible for knowing that. So, if they don't have a guy, if they don't have that Dustin Pedroia or that, David Ortiz, and if Chris Sale was a guy, but he's not with them, like, Core's got to go to his coaching staff, a guy like Varitek, who was easily that guy when he played and is now around this team every single day. And he's going to go to a guy like Jason, be like, hey, Jace, like, I need you. Like, I need you to get the guys going. Like, I need you to hold these guys accountable. And I don't know, like, maybe, Venables being the bench coach, maybe Venables isn't that guy. Like, I don't know these guys on a personal basis, but something's got to give. And someone's got to get up and do that. And if it means that, Varitek takes on an extra role, then do it. Or if it means that he pulls Bogey into his office and says, hey, man, you want to be here long term? I want you here. I need you to fill this role. You're a leader. And it might not be comfortable for you. And I don't need you to get up there and, give these rah-rah speeches. But you got to hold these guys accountable. Like, you got to go tell Jarren Duran, that's not how we play baseball. Like, that's what I need from you. If you want to be the leader, you want to make all this money, you want to stay here, be a career Red Sox, we want you. That's your role. But, like, that's on Core to have that conversation. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like no one's having the conversation one way or the other, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. They definitely need to burn the laundry card at this point. Like, because it's, like, means nothing.
But look at last year versus this year. A lot of the same guys, but like last year, like that team had energy. They were disciplined. They played smart baseball. They had a lot of fun. This year, they're just dead. Like, they're just dead out there. And they've been dealt a terrible hand. They've got a boatload of injuries. They already had a thin roster coming into the season. They've had a boatload of injuries to key guys.
The bullpen.
I mean, the bullpen's been a train wreck, but and quite honestly, again, like, I feel like as Red Sox fans, we expect them to be competitive every year. I don't think they intended to be competitive this year. I think this was a step back to plant some seeds, see what they got, and then make a run at some free agents next year, get their house in order with Bogaerts and JD. JD's got to go. You got to figure out what the plan is with Bogaerts. I mean, I feel like this year was like a transition kind of year for them. And last year was kind of a bonus because they weren't expected to make a run like they did last year either. But again, that team, a lot of the same players, played a much better brand of baseball than this team. And it's hard to watch.
I just know if we lose both Bogaerts and Devers, Bloom's gone, right? I mean, I just don't see how you can play small market ball with a big market team. It's fine in some aspects, but that would be 3 homegrown superstars that you did not keep. 3. That's an issue when you're a big market team and you can spend the money.
Well, and
it is. I mean, I the Bogaerts one is really the one too that I am so willing to have a wait and see attitude because they love who they have down in the minors at that position. They're vocal about how much they like them. The team themselves, you can't scroll through social media without some affiliate of the team pumping a highlight from Marcell Ozuna. I mean, it's like they love this kid. So with that being said, I don't think they want, like, their first option is not going to be to sign Bogaerts to a 10-year contract. It's not going to do it because they don't want to clog that position up. They don't want to do it. And I think the Story 5-year, whatever, 1 year at second base, we'll try to work it out with Xander, but we're not going to go crazy. And if Xander leaves, we slide him over, we fill second base. By the time Story's contract is over, this Marcelo Mayer kid's probably ready to take the reins and run with it. I think that's their perfect scenario plan. Like, I really, really think that's like their perfect plan. But I'm telling you right now, like, as a Red Sox fan, I know what Xander Bogaerts is. I have no idea what Marcelo Mayer is. No idea. Could he be great? Yes. Could he be an all-star? Could he be a superstar? Yes. Bogaerts is all of those things. And I'm not saying, like, we never trust young players. I'm not saying that. But, like, when you have a known commodity that can perform in this market, can perform in this division, can do it at a high level, can do it while staying healthy, which is a big part of it. The guy always plays.
Yeah.
And he wants to be here. So, like, why are we, like, going out of our way to make him feel like we don't want him here? Like, that's the one thing that bugs me. Like, if they move on from him, like, it's going to suck. But, like, I understand the succession plan because I understand they have this kid. But, like, I just hate the way they're going about it. Like, I hate the way they're going about it.
I mean, out of the three, I would have kept Betts, Devers, then Bogarts. You know what I mean? Like my priority. That's how I would have. And right now, out of the two that we got, like you have to keep Rafael Devers. You have to.
But in reality, to Sean's point, the Red Sox are a team that could keep both. There's no reason they couldn't keep both.
100%.
I think when you look at the Red Sox ownership group, what are they doing right now? I mean, John Henry half the time isn't even in Boston. He's at friggin' Liverpool or working on. They're trying to get some expansion in the NBA to buy an NBA franchise. You know, LeBron James is now an investor in this Fenway Sports Group and owns a piece of the Red Sox. And then last week tells everybody that Boston is racist, but he bought the team because he thinks it's a good investment. Like, this is an investment group. These aren't owners anymore. They're just investors. And Chaim Bloom is running the show. And I actually think when you look at what Chaim Bloom has done, you know, last year's team was a weird mix of players that got him to the ALCS. Like, this year was a weird mix of players that kind of imploded. But if you look at his track record, that's what he's going to do. And I think that's what they brought him here to do. They're not just going to throw contracts around like Dombrowski did. He's going to come in. They're going to have a couple of anchor guys they pay big money to, like the Belichick way. They're going to find a bunch of pieces, put them all together, see if it works. Put them all together, see if it works. But I don't think the Red Sox are going to spend like a big market team for a while because honestly, they've got interest elsewhere and money flowing elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Bogarts, I'll put a bow on if I can say it the way I want to say it. Like, I think they would love to have Bogarts, Devers, Trevor Story at those positions, second base, shortstop, and third base. I think they would love to have that for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
I think they would
100%.
love to. But I think they are not willing to give Bogarts any more than 5 years, whatever their dollar figure is. Bloom doesn't want to go a dollar above that. If Bogarts wants to sign his number, he's like, absolutely, we'll keep you. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you. But I'm not going to go above what my number is. And it's almost like that's what we set it at. That's what I set it at. We're not going above it. If you want more, go somewhere else. But if you want to stay at my number, we'd be happy to have you. So I don't even think that's why I don't think they're going to trade him unless they get a ridiculous return, but they won't.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think they're going to trade him because I don't think they actively want to get rid of him. I just think they made it very clear to him, hey, we're doing it under our terms and our terms only, which is frustrating.
I think for me, I think the ownership group is kind of fat and happy right now. They've won 4 championships since the Yankees have won their last one. And I think the best thing for this Red Sox team right now and Red Sox organization is for the Yankees to start winning championships again. As much as that hurts me to say, I think that's what it's going to take for them to be like, okay, like we got to get back on the horse here and start being competitive again. That's just my 2 cents on that. But
yeah, I mean, they probably don't have the same sense of urgency they had when they first came along.
Not even close.
But at the same time, they're going to run this. They're going to run this, I think, similar to how the Patriots run things. They're going to put a number, to Sean's point. They're going to put a number on the position, and if that doesn't fit the player, they'll find another player that fits it. And I think they're going to be very disciplined. That's what Chaim Bloom is. He's going to build the farm system. He's going to unload players that want too much money. They're going to put a price on every position. They're going to fill it on a budget, and he's going to go try to find those overlooked pieces and try to cobble a team together every year.
Yeah.
But this is not going to be like the Yankees and Dodgers where they're just going to hand out big free agent contracts. I don't think that's going to be their MO for a while. Yeah. And I actually think that, even if this team, completely implodes the rest of the year, I don't think Chaim Bloom's seat's even warm. I think that he's doing exactly what they want him to do.
I also think, though, if that's going to be what your plan is, I don't think it would be fair to give that guy 2 years. If that's the plan, you got to give that guy a handful of years because that is a plan that takes a handful of years to put into place. Like, so that wouldn't. I don't think that would be fair. I think that would be completely ridiculous. Like, when they brought him in, they knew it was a 5-year, 6-year, 7-year plan that they were putting in.
Yep.
So like even if they implode the rest of this year and they finish 15 games behind the Orioles for dead last, like I still don't think like it's even warm because it shouldn't be.
No, exactly. He's doing exactly what they want him to do. This is all part of the plan. And I actually, my belief is, as much as I don't like Cora, and as much as I think he's done a terrible job this year, I think Cora's safe because I think he knows where they're going. And I think that's why you see Cora. He's not anxious out there. He's not making kind of knee-jerk reaction decisions. He's staying the course. He's putting Ryan Brazier in over and over again. He's playing Jeter Downs. He's playing Jared Duran. He's not disciplining him for not, hustling after that ball. He's doing what they decided to do, I think, early on. And I think because of that, I think Chaim Bloom likes Cora and wants him there for the long term because maybe in a couple of years this team is a ball buster again once they make some moves and bring some young guys up. But I think Chaim Bloom's got all the time in the world.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I mean, I think he's earned that. I think what he did in his career in Tampa Bay, I think he's proven that he can do that. He can find the talent and he can maximize potential. And as long as he has the right manager in his eyes, Kevin Cash was that in Tampa Bay. I think he thinks Cora is that guy in Boston. And I think he's proven. I'm going to get the right kind of guys from my manager, and this is how we're going to do it. And it proved in Tampa Bay to do quite well. I think the difference is Tampa Bay was happy with doing quite well, but here you can't get away with doing quite well. You can't get away with losing in the first or second round of the playoffs and being fine with that. Like it has to turn into championship contending teams. We'll see if he can do that, but I do think he's at least proven himself that he should have a chance and a shot to do it his way. And if it fails in 5 years, it fails in 5 years.
Right. Yeah. And the funny thing with us Red Sox fans is although the team sucks, the stadium's still full. We're still buying merch like crazy. Nesson's still printing money. Like this ownership group doesn't have a massive incentive to spend money because we're idiot diehard fans that come out even when the team sucks and spend money like drunken sailors because it's what we do. We love the team. And they don't have to worry about that pressure. In Tampa Bay, you lose 2 games, all of a sudden the stadium's empty again because nobody cares. In Boston, it's full every friggin' night.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. Well, let's see what happens with them down the road here. But, yeah, I don't think there's any moves at the deadline for them, but we'll see.
I think they're just going to ride it out.
Right, unless they're selling. Real quick before we move on to the second half predictions, we got players of the week, Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge. I mean, this weekend, Judge hit, 18 more home runs, and then Goldschmidt hit another, 750? So
Judge for the week hit 474, 9 for 19, a 1.776 OPS, 4 homers, which is now putting him on pace for 62. And he had 8 hits and 8 RBIs against the Orioles over the weekend.
Yeah.
And then Goldschmidt, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, and a 1.885 OPS. Granted, those 3 games were against Cincinnati, so he was hitting against minor leaguers, but still a pretty good week.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to rounding third, we did not put out a question this week because of the All-Star break and all that stuff, but let's start with Cy Young, AL, NL. We'll just run through this quickly. So give me your AL and NL each. Sean.
I'll still say I think Rodon's doing fine. I mean, he's probably not going to win it in the National League, but he was my before the season pick, and he's done fine. He's done really well for a team that's hovering around 500, but he hasn't been their problem. So I'll stick with him just because I do think he's had a good first half of his first year in San Francisco.
For sure.
I mean, if it's I don't know, it's got to be Verlander, right? The American League. I mean, he's certainly the front runner. He's certainly the front runner.
It's Verlander or McClanahan. I think it's a 2-man race.
Yeah.
My vote would go to Verlander.
Oh, for sure. That's who I have for sure.
Yep.
But Harrison.
Yeah. So I'm going with Verlander, and I'm going with Gonsolin in LA. I mean, the guy's freaking 11-0. And Walker Buehler was my pick. He went down. and they haven't missed him because Gonsolin has been friggin' lights out every night.
Yeah. I have Verlander, so unanimous there. AL. I have Alcantara.
Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
Miami. I mean,
his stuff is so gross. It's not even right.
And I mean, his ERA is
see
still
O'Neill. You see O'Neill Cruz take him deep yesterday.
Oh my God! And that ball was crushed.
It was to the top of the bleachers in right field, and oh my God,
it's sick.
MVP Harrison. AL.
This one I found really hard because there's so many guys that deserve it. I mean, in the AL, I think it's Judge. I don't know if anybody feels differently, but I think it's Judge in the AL. The NL to me is a tough one. I feel like it's going to go to a guy like Goldschmidt. I feel like the Cardinals. He's literally carried them for segments of the season. I feel like it's got to go to Goldschmidt. Somebody like that.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, Judge is running away with it here in the American League. Again, my preseason pick was Raffy, and I think Raffy's had a fine season. When he was playing before he kind of ran into these kind of muscle issues here the past week or so, but leading the league in hits, and he was getting some big RBIs, good power, but it's Judge. I mean, Judge is running. He's going to be average on pace for 62 or 63 home runs, something like that. So I mean, I don't know. That's him. National League, I'm with you. Like Goldie would be one. I think Pete Alonso has an outside shot at it too. I know the average is down. I mean, it's not Paul Goldschmidt average, but I mean, he's 80 RBIs, 80-something RBIs already. And I mean, the guy, last night, right? I mean, they needed a win. They needed a win badly last night. And this guy steps up with just an absolute in-your-face fuck bomb when they needed it. And he's just been doing that for the Mets kind of all year. He just comes through. Like we talk about Judge. I don't think Judge gets out when it matters. It's almost the same thing with Pete. Like when it matters, when it's a big moment late in the game and Pete's up, you can almost set your watch to it. So I still think probably Goldie, but I think, Pete keeps this up for the rest of the year. He gives himself a shot.
Yeah. I have my AL pick is Judge, but honestly, it's probably going to be Shohei again. Let's be honest. Everybody's on him.
I know.
Everywhere you look, it's like, oh, well, he's on both sides of the ball. Well, no shit, he's on both sides of the ball. We're not living under a rock. But, I mean, I don't know. It's Judge's to lose at this point for sure.
I think so.
And then I have Alonso for my MVP pick for the second half. But it is hard to go against Goldschmidt. I mean, that guy's season.
I feel like in the National League, you could put 3 or 4 names in a hat, pick one, and they all deserve it.
I agree.
I mean, they really do. You got Goldie, Alonso. Those guys have absolutely been ridiculous. Arenado's had a hell of a season and has kind of only been forgotten because of Goldschmidt. It's you've had some monster seasons. I mean, Schwarber should get some consideration.
Yep.
Schwarber certainly should.
I mean, he's carried that team with Harper out. So I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of guys that could get a look. Austin Riley. You could keep going down the list.
Austin Riley is coming out of nowhere. Right?
I thought Matt Olson was my preseason NL MVP pick, and he's had a really good season. But Austin Riley has been by far the guy leading the charge in Atlanta. Not even close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's up over 30 bombs now, right? Or if not really close.
I think he's second in the league now behind, or second in all of baseball behind Judge.
Crazy. Rookie of the year, AL, NL, I'll go. I think it's Julio Rodriguez, obviously. I mean, the display he had at the Home Run Derby.
Oh, my God. Freak.
The kids, I mean, there's really no other AL MVP, Rookie of the year that comes close. NL, I think it's going to be another Cincinnati Red. I think it's going to be Hunter Green. Is going to be the Rookie of the year there. That's
not bad.
Pick.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sean?
Julio. I don't know. American League, I don't know where else you go. He's kind of run away with it. I mean, with that, 14, 15 bombs in June. And he's really just kind of kept it up. He's everyday player, belongs up here. I'd certainly say it's his to lose. National League, I'll be honest, for lack of a better one, Hunter Green, I think is a great pick. I don't really know who else I would kind of even put in there.
Does O'Neal Cruz qualify? I don't know if he qualifies. That's why I didn't pick
I
him.
have no idea.
I don't. I mean, I feel like by the end of the season he'll qualify because he came up in May, but it's a tough one to put him in because he hasn't been up very long. The other guys have been there all season.
O'Neal Cruz is going to be like Randy Arozarena, where it's like his fifth
Yeah,
year in the league.
Right.
He's winning Rookie of the Year.
He's winning Rookie of the Year his 7th season in the league. It's like, what the hell?
7th year in a row, Rookie of the Year, O'Neal Cruz. Yeah.
Oh, God almighty.
Yeah, man. Train wreck. But who do you got? I mean, you have Julio for AL, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, Julio, I feel like, has run away with it. Adley Rutschman was my pick, and Adley's been great, but there's no competing with Julio. That kid is absolutely exploded. Julio in the American League for sure. The National League I find hard. I think you got a guy like Spencer Strider in Atlanta who's been really good.
Strider's, that's a great pick.
He's been really good for them, and he's been key because they've had some instability in the rotation. And Morel out with the Cubs. He's been a pretty good story too. But I don't feel like the National League has that one guy that you go, oh yeah, like it's his to lose.
Right.
You got 2 or 3 guys that have had really nice rookie seasons, but nobody's run away with it like the American League, where Julio Rodriguez has stolen it.
Which is actually a great point to Nick as to why, if it stays that way, as long as he qualifies, it might be O'Neal Cruz. Because
could be.
I mean, he's just a guy that brings eyeballs. He's a 6'7" shortstop that throws it 100 miles an hour across the diamond. Hits absolute fuck bombs off of like the best pitchers in baseball. He's the guy. Like as long as he qualifies, it's almost like he's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, the hard part for him is he's hitting 208, 5 home runs, 18 RBIs. Like, I mean, he's an exciting player, no doubt. He's got crazy power. He's very raw. But yeah, I mean, if he has a good August and September, he could be the one standing there at the end because nobody else has run away with it.
Right.
Manager of the Year, who do you got?
Oh shit.
I mean, my pick.
All of mine are wasted. So
my pick at the beginning was in the National League was Buck. I'm going to stick with that. I mean, but I mean, Snicker doing what he's done. Get off to the slow start they did, and then just roar back and they're a game and a half behind the Mets right now, and it's like, But I went with Buck, and Buck's done nothing to lose it, so I'll just stick with Buck and ride that out. And I'm changing my American League. I had Ausmus, who was Ausmus, Hinch or whatever the hell in Detroit. That was disgusting. But I'll change it to Brandon Hyde in Baltimore because that is a team that is up right now in Tampa Bay. I mean, they win today. They're 48-48. This team wasn't even supposed to win 50 games all year, and they're going to have 48 wins on July 25th. So he's going to get my vote for the American League.
Same. I have Brandon Hyde as well. And then the NL, I have Oliver Marmol, Cardinals.
Marmol.
Whatever. The M dude.
Can't say it. But yeah, Cardinals. And the Cardinals are in prime position to leapfrog the Brewers here at any point. So, yeah. Harrison?
Yeah, so in my preseason pick in the NL was also Buck because I thought he'd turn the Mets around. I mean, like Sean said, he's done nothing to prove that theory wrong, so I'll ride with Buck. In the American League, I had Joe Madden because I had the Angels making the playoffs. That's looking really good right now.
You looked great in April, though. That was a great pick in April.
I looked good until about May 28th, and it all fell off.
Yeah, right. Till he got his mohawk.
I looked like a genius until the end of May, and then it all blew up. But so in the American League, I think Brandon Hyde has to win it, but I do think Scott Service is going to get consideration because of the turnaround in Seattle.
For sure.
That team was like
as he should,
dead 6 weeks ago, and they have come roaring back.
Yeah. Well, getting Ty France back because he was injured. Julio's resurgence, whatever, and uprising in June, like just crazy.
I feel like Service has done a really good job managing a lot of new players, a lot of new faces, some injuries, some rough patches. He's done a nice job, and I thought that team was a mess 6 weeks ago, and then they started to put it together, and then they get France back, and Rodriguez gets hot, and next thing you know, they're, they haven't lost in friggin' 3 months, and they're right back in contention.
Yeah. All right. Let's go down the AL section here. East, Yankees, all of us. I mean, of course, right? No brainer.
It's going to take out like an act of God to knock them off that.
It's not going to happen. Central. What do you got? This could be wide open. I mean, it could be 3 teams.
Minnesota.
It could be one of 3 teams here. That's who I have as well.
Yeah,
but
I'm riding with Minnesota. I think Cleveland is going to make it interesting, but I feel like Minnesota's good.
Yeah.
I feel like the White Sox have to can La Russa at some point and start over.
Yep.
That's a disaster.
The West, I mean, it's the Astros, right?
Oh, yeah, Houston in a landslide.
Jesus, yeah.
All right, wild card teams. This is interesting. I have the Royals, Tigers, and the A's.
Whoa. Yeah. Nick just got kicked off his podcast.
No, I got Blue Jays, Mariners, and Rays. I think wild cards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've got the same 3.
I'll tell you, yeah, the fourth team on my list, all joking aside, would be Baltimore. I mean, with the way that they're playing, and I mean, that's the team that you're looking at going, hey, maybe they have a shot. I mean, they're 3.5 out of it now, but I think it's those 3. I think it's those 3.
I think Cleveland just misses it. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a play-in game to get to the 3rd wild card spot.
Yeah.
Imagine that, like a wild card for the wild card spot.
That'd be awesome,
right? Like, I mean, it's kind of like the All-Star game. We were kind of hoping for that tie game so we get the home run derby.
The home run derby there, yeah.
Yeah. All right, NL East. Who do you got? I mean, Braves are coming hot, like we said.
Yeah,
but
I think the Mets will hold on. I think Buck is a good steadying force, so they'll be fine.
DeGrom.
I do too, back. And I think DeGrom coming back is big. I think the Vogelback is going to end up being a big move. And if they make one more, if they make a Mancini move, or if they make a Wilson Contreras, I think that can only help. And let me just say, I'll say one more thing. Just Mets Twitter is crazy with like they're just the most negative fan base in the history of the world. And it's like, I get why, like they've been pretty embarrassing at times, but they did not relinquish the division. The Braves took it. And that's a completely different scenario. The Mets did not go on this ridiculously bad losing streak or lose games that you just shouldn't have lost and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's baseball. You're going to lose games. No one wins 155 games a year. You're going to lose baseball games. But the Mets had done nothing in June and July to lose the division. The Braves just came and took it.
Yeah.
The Braves remembered that they won the World Series. They have a top 3 manager in baseball. They have a bunch of really good goddamn players. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We're good at baseball. And they just came out and they played good baseball. So I think it's going to be an awesome one down the stretch. I'm a Mets fan, so I'm going to say I still think the Mets are going to hang on to it, but I think it's going to come right down to September.
Yeah,
that's going to. I think that division is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
That might be the closest one. That and the NL Central, I think, are the 2 races that are going to be interesting for the top spot.
The NL Central is like, a couple three mediocre teams trying to beat each other up for a spot in the playoffs.
Well, right, but it's the Brewers and Cardinals that are going to. It's who can.
I'm sorry, I was talking about the American League Central. My bad.
Oh, yeah.
NL Central is a little more interesting.
Right. So, I mean, I have the Mets in the East as well. In the Central, I have the Cardinals leapfrogging the Brewers here at some point.
Yeah, I do too.
Agreed.
I do too. I just think Milwaukee's 53 wins so far. They got some, they got the good pitching staff. They got Rowdy Tellez. They got some good players. But I mean, you look at St. Louis. To me, St. Louis is the epitome of what just a good, steady playoff baseball team is. And they have that one piece that they're missing. And it's a glaring hole, no doubt. But I think they find a way to overcome that and still win the division. Win the World Series without a shortstop? Probably not. I think that the National League is just way too strong for them to have to go through 3 different teams without a key piece like that. But I do think they win the division.
Imagine Xander Bogaerts in that lineup. Wow.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, they are Xander Bogaerts away. In the West, do we really have to cover that one?
No.
No, we don't.
Okay. All right. So Yeah, it's the Diamondbacks, clearly. So, NL wild card, who do you guys got?
I think Atlanta.
Yep.
Is it Atlanta for
Atlanta,
sure?
Milwaukee. I mean,
San
probably
Diego.
San Diego, right? I mean,
Those are the three I have for sure.
Yeah.
I think
I don't know
what's interesting
what
with the
order,
National League is that you could actually have the top 2 teams in each division in the playoffs, which is nice to see it spread out like that.
Right.
Yeah, right. Instead of 4 AL East teams.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there we go. So those are our predictions for.
I mean, I'll say I could see a scenario in which it becomes Atlanta, Milwaukee. I'm sorry. Atlanta, San Diego, and San Francisco. Like San Francisco's 2 games back. San Francisco's 1 game over 500. But San Francisco is a good baseball team. They have a really good manager, and they have really talented players that, like the Red Sox, overperformed last year. But they're like, and I haven't watched a ton of Giants games this year, but like they're not the embarrassing team the Red Sox are. Like, yes, they're only 1 game above 500, but they're kind of right there in the thick of things. And I think similar to the Red Sox, they've really struggled in their division. But I could see a scenario in which 3 teams from the West make it, because I wouldn't sleep on San Francisco maybe sneaking into that last spot.
It's a good call. San Francisco is 1 hot streak away from being right back in the thick of things, and they've played some kind of uneven baseball the last month or so, and but they're better than that, and I think they'll come around. I think the National League is you've got some scenarios where a couple of the teams could slip in and be part of it. So, I mean, and the funny part of it is. The funny part of it is, like, even Philadelphia is not that far out. I mean, Philadelphia is on the edge too, and
they are. But like Philadelphia is the team that, like, you look at the depth of what the National League is about to put into the playoffs, right? They're about to put the Dodgers, they're going to put the Mets, they're going to put the Cardinals, they're going to put Atlanta, they're likely going to put Milwaukee, they're going to put San Diego, maybe San Francisco. Like, that is a gauntlet of really good baseball teams. Like, even if Philadelphia squeaks in, like, they're not getting out. Like, they're likely getting whoever they face in the first round. They're likely getting swept. You know what I mean? Like there's teams, and then like you could sneak in, but you're not doing anything. Like, you're not going anywhere.
It's 1 more day away from home. That's it.
Yeah, right. I just think St. Louis is in an unfortunate position too, because it's like this is like Goldie's having an MVP year, Arenado's having an MVP year. You get some really good players. There's Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill. Like, you got really good players. But unless you go fill that glaring hole at shortstop, you're wasting this year, because you're not getting through the National League without that position. It's too deep. Like, it doesn't matter who you get in the first round. If you get out of the first round, you're going against like either Atlanta or LA or the Mets in the next round.
It's like a tough draw no matter what.
That's so tough. Like, so that's a big hole. They got to fill it. I would expect them to make some kind of move. I don't know who, I don't know what, but I would expect them to fill that hole somehow.
I mean, is there a shortstop available right now?
Well, that's the thing too. I don't know.
I mean, Correa's not, because the Twins are gonna win the division, so he's gonna stay.
I mean, the thing. All the joking aside, I mean, the move is Bogaerts.
That's the only shortstop that can move, right?
It's really I mean, that's the move, and but I mean, you're giving up a haul because you know that you're going to trade for him and then sign him. Like, he's not a rent-a-player, because the Red Sox aren't going to give him up for a rent-a-player. So, like, for what the Red Sox are going to ask back for Bogaerts, like, you're going to have to sign him. And I don't, I would love, if he's not here, I would love to see him in St. Louis. I mean, that's the place he's going to flourish. So if he's not here, I wouldn't mind seeing him there.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other one I can think of is, I mean, there's no way anybody's going to pick up Javier Baez's contract, but I'm sure Detroit would love to let him go.
He's sitting $1.97.
Right. I mean, why would anybody go and eat that? The only player I can think of that might be available if they decide they really need to go a different direction is maybe Tim Anderson from the White Sox. But because the AL Central is so mediocre, the White Sox, it's going to be a long time before they're out of it. I mean, they are still in it as bad a season as they've had.
Yeah. Crazy to think about too, but whatever. All right, heading home here, we'll run down some quick topics real quick. The Hall of Fame speech yesterday by Ortiz. I really like the one Minnie Minoso's widow. Him being the first Latin player in the MLB, finally inducted. And then Tony Olivo right after him, like all those guys that set the path for the Latin American player. It was really, really cool to listen to those guys and the impact that, now we have a David Ortiz. We have all these Latin players because of these two and like how important they were to the game. So, and it's only going to get more diverse, right? I mean, Ichiro is going in a few years. I mean, and I love that these guys are talking in their native language too. Like, I think that's really important to like grow the game outside of the U.S. And I can't wait for Ichiro and all of that too. So, I mean, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and for those of you watching or listening that come back and look at it, we put the Hall of Fame class for next year up on the Facebook page. It's highly underwhelming who's eligible next year.
I mean, no one's getting in first ballot. That's for sure. I think Beltran and K-Rod are the only two that make it to the next year. They're going to get enough votes to stay. But
K-Rod?
John Lackey, no.
I mean, I love the fact that
you should see the class, dude.
Matt Cain's in consideration. It's like, really? They had 2 good seasons.
Sean, it's terrible, buddy.
You want to talk about the Hall of very good. I mean, those guys all belong in the Hall of, decent to okay.
It's Beltran, Matt Cain, Ellsbury, Andre Ethier, John Lackey, Mike Napoli, Francisco Rodriguez, Houston Street, Jared Weaver, and Jason Worth.
I mean, you have to be kidding. I mean, how are those guys? What are the requirements for eligibility? Like, I'd like to find that out. How did any of them even qualify?
Jesus Christ!
I got nothing. I really don't. It's gonna be the guys that didn't get in this year that are gonna get the votes. You know what I mean?
Jared Weaver won 150 games in his career. I mean, seriously?
I don't know. But K-Rod's gonna get it like consideration because of that 63 save season.
Yeah, sure. But if Wagner doesn't get in, how do you let K-Rod in?
I know. You can't.
No, you can't do it.
But does Billy Wagner get in this year then?
I don't think
with this class coming in. Like, who else?
Well, actually, it might give hope to a guy like that, but I still don't think that the closer position is valued enough to get real serious consideration. I mean, Eckersley made it as a starter, not a reliever. And they were very clear that he made it based on the merits of being a starter. I feel like the closer position is not going to get the respect that it, because it's such a specialist type position.
But the DH isn't?
Oh, it totally is. I mean, David Ortiz is technically the first career DH to make it to the Hall.
But Nick, it is a specialized position for sure. But, I mean, we've said it a few times. When you're a closer, you only come in the game when your team is ahead. You only come in. You do not have to. What?
Mariano Rivera is the only unanimous selection. So, like, your argument just kind of goes out the window because he's the first unanimous selection.
Right.
And he only came in when his team was ahead.
Well, first off, Mariano Rivera, I've been very open and said it on this to you guys before that I think it's ridiculous that he's the only unanimous one. I think his 100%. Position when we came up with our top 100 players or whatever it was, like, we were very open about pitchers, specifically relievers and closers, and that Mariano was unanimous because he did it for a billion years and had a billion World Series titles because he was on a billion great teams. Like, that's why.
Right.
Like, that's why he was unanimous. He was not unanimous because, like, he was the most revered, player in baseball. It's like, yeah, he was a really good closer. They came in on really good teams and saved a lot of games and won World Series. But closers, I think the position itself is vastly overrated.
Big time.
Insanely overrated.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
so
that's different. Mariano has
different.
50% more saves than Billy Wagner. Like, it's not even close.
But it's like saying, like, yes, DH is a specialized position, but there's tiers of specialized positions.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Like we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think DH is a much more valued specialized position than closer, or it should be.
Well, I agree with that because I mean, I could come in with a three-run lead in the major leagues and probably still save 200 games just by sheer luck. You give me a three-run lead,
sense, but yeah, in a sense, yeah.
I think a save should be 2 runs or less. Honestly, 3 runs is a lot to come in and qualify for a save.
Yeah, I mean it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see that for sure. I can see it.
Yeah, I think specialized positions, yes, but it's like in the NFL, like punters are not really in the Hall of Fame. Like you're not inducting a punter every year,
right?
Because while every year you have the best punter of the year, but doesn't make you the greatest punter of all time that belongs enshrined in this building devoted to the greatest players of all time. Same thing with closers. Like you're going to have your best closer every year, but that doesn't make them Mariano Rivera. Like Mariano Rivera is a ridiculous standard to now hold people to for closers.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, and I said it when we were talking about Billy Wagner when we were putting in our votes. I could never vote for a closer because it is a super specialized position that to me it's always been overrated. But where Mariano was so far beyond everybody, like he gets that consideration. Him being unanimous is stupid. Like I still think that's ridiculous that he was unanimous. That they got that one wrong. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Yeah, guy saved 650 games and won a bazillion championships because he was on great teams. But he's the anomaly in that group. He's not. I mean, Billy Wagner, good closer, but did he really make a huge difference? No, put up some good numbers, but and K-Rod, I mean, probably shouldn't even be on the ballot. His numbers are less than Wagner, and Wagner's barely staying on the ballot. So,
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think K-Rod deserves it, but I think out of the names that are there, Beltran and K-Rod at least survive one more ballot. You know what I mean? Because you get the minimum percentage to move on. Like I think they're the only 2 out of that class that gets any type of consideration to stay on the ballot for next year.
Well, and honestly, I think that Beltran is going to be punished for the sign stealing scandal.
Oh, 100%.
I think he might get knocked right off the ballot because people won't want to vote for him because of that.
Yeah,
which is unfortunate. I mean, I think Beltran. I think there's a case to be made for him. I don't if he never gets in. I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not picketing outside Cooperstown being where's Carlos Beltran? But I think there's a case to be made. Right, I mean, 435 home runs, career 280 batting average, over 2,700 hits. I mean, the guy played for 100 years, 20 years in Major League Baseball. So it's 20 years in baseball, you should have 2,700 hits. So it's not an outrageous number.
No,
one Rookie of the Year, bunch of All-Stars, top 15 MVPs a few times, couple Gold Gloves. So it's if he makes it in the next few years, sure, that'd be great. But I'm not beating the door down.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those guys that I wouldn't necessarily vote for him, but I don't care either way. If he hangs on and eventually gets in, it won't break my heart. But
I'll tell you, he's the only friggin' Jared, on that list.
If Jared Weaver gets in, I'm going to stop watching baseball. Period.
Boys, Jason Stark.
I saw.
Why is he even Jason Worth or whatever the hell his name is? Why is he even on the list?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing.
I mean, but so I'm reading comments on the post that you just put, Harrison, and it said it's a shame that Clemens and Bonds were dropped after this season. Next year was their chance. I'm still confused at why they shortened it from 15 to 10 years. They did that to get them off the ballot is what they did.
Right, exactly.
That's exactly why they shortened it.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they want to be able to flush these guys out faster.
Yeah, which they did. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. All right. I know this might not be a quick topic, but we're on a roll tonight. So Harrison brought up this point a couple days ago, yesterday or Saturday, about if the Blue Jays make the playoffs and all these players not being vaccinated, going to Canada, and it's home field advantage for the Blue Jays. I mean, should the players be mandated to be vaccinated? Should the team, right?
Yeah. Or does MLB step in and move their games out of Canada for the playoffs to level the playing field?
Yeah. See, my argument to that was, now you're taking playoff revenue away from the city of Toronto, and they're going to be mad about that.
Yep.
So I don't think that's an option. But I mean, if the Blue Jays mandated their players to be vaccinated to play on their team, I don't see why other teams wouldn't be like, hey, like, we're going to be in the playoffs. Like, we need you in Toronto. Like, you need to go get this done. Because, I mean, what was it? The Royals they sent, 9 players or something like that? Like,
10 players couldn't travel because of that.
Crazy. And then the Cardinals did. I mean, yes, it's a National League team, but you lost Arenado, you lost Goldschmidt. They didn't go.
2 best players.
Right. So, like, I don't know. Like, and I'm not trying to get political here. That's not my.
Yeah, no.
That's not my goal.
No.
But like, what does the MLB do, or what do the teams do? Because if Toronto makes it out, depending on what their record, they might be hosting a series here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it as, the Blue Jays are going to host. I mean, any series they're in, they're going to have home games. So depending on the opponent, there's going to be some players from that opponent that can't play in the home games or the games played in Toronto. And for some teams that won't make much of a difference. For other teams, it'll make a bigger difference. But could you imagine like a Blue Jays St. Louis Cardinals World Series? The Blue Jays get home field advantage, and Goldschmidt and Arenado miss 4 games. Like, I feel like that would be a travesty to lose a World Series because of a local law that prohibits 2 guys from traveling. Now, could they go get vaccinated? Sure, they could. But MLB has always taken the stance of, we tell you what not to put in your body, and now we got to tell you what to put in your body in order to go play in a World Series. It is a lousy situation that they're in, and maybe this whole vaccine mandate's gone by the time the playoffs start. Who knows? I don't think Canada's gonna do that, but like, how do you reconcile the fact that Toronto gets this massive home field advantage over a vaccination status issue when they're not dealing with that anywhere else?
Yeah, and I don't think you can move the World Series games to Buffalo. That's not the answer either. You can't move the World Series to a AAA stadium.
Yeah, and it's not like you're gonna. Yeah, it's not like you're gonna play in the other team's stadium and just change dugouts. Like you can't. I mean, there's no. I don't think there's a good answer to it. It just, as I was reading that article, that headline, I'm thinking, oh crap, playoffs are coming. Like, how does MLB deal with this? Or do they just let it play out? And if a team loses because of vaccination status, oh well.
Well, I unfortunately, I think that's likely how it's going to happen. And I think it's likely going to be, it's going to divide people, because this situation and this topic always divides people. But MLB is going to take the stance, and rightfully so, but they're going to take the stance and say, hey, this isn't new. Like, this has been a Canada thing this entire season.
Right.
Entire season. So for, you Red Sox fans that are bitching about it, every time you went to Canada to play, your players couldn't play. Like, this isn't something we implemented for the postseason that's now making it, unfair. Is it unfair? Sure. And is it a bit of a home field advantage? Certainly. But, like, it's been that way all year long. And you as players and as organizations have had the opportunity and had a full season to discuss what your plan would be, and to talk to your players, and to implement some kind of, backup plan, and like, you had a whole season to do it. So if it unfortunately bites you in the ass in October and it knocks you out of the playoffs, like, that does suck and it's awful. But that's kind of the way the year has been, and you knew it, and that's on you. And like, it's kind of shitty because, like, but I think that's going to, if I was Major League Baseball, like, that's how I would handle it.
Yeah, and I think that's how it's going to be handled. The less hands-on the MLB can be, that's what they're going to be. The less that they have to come out and deal with it.
Rightfully so. Because
absolutely. I
think that's the right thing for them to do. You can't start meddling in, we're going to now play it in Buffalo to make it fair. Well, it's not really fair. Like, now that's not fair. Now you're taking you're now taking a team in the Toronto Blue Jays that was built to play in a dome, and they're built this way, and now you're going to take them out of there in the playoffs and put them in Buffalo to make it fair for, like, you know what I mean? Like, so the best thing for them to do is to be hands off. Like, I think it's the right move. It just sucks. But hey, I mean, it's been that way all year. Like, you guys got to figure that out.
I mean, that's a great point. They've had 162 games to deal with this issue. Knowing where your team is going to end up, or have a pretty solid idea where your team's going to end up. Like,
and what'll be interesting too is as this comes closer to the playoffs, do you see players that have been like, oh crap, we may get Toronto, like I need to go get vaccinated? Like, is that going to change their mind about getting it, or are they going to say, no, my body, I'm just not going to be there, and be okay?
Well,
that's like Kyrie Irving. That whole Kyrie Irving situation was a friggin' hot mess in New York, where he could only play road games.
Isn't Benny one of those guys?
He is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the whole idea, didn't it come up with him essentially a done deal, whatever, going to the Bronx? I mean, that's been a thing because the Yankees are 100% vaccinated now. The Yankees can travel full bore to Toronto. They can bring everybody. But if Benny gets traded, Benny's going to have to get vaccinated, or he can't go to Toronto. Like,
or the Yankees might not even pull the trigger. The Yankees might not even do the deal. So,
sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, it was just an interesting topic that we talked about for a little bit this weekend. I thought it was interesting because like as much as we don't want to get political with it, like we were more like just like, well, what are they going to do? Like they're kind of in a lose-lose situation depending on which team goes there, So
well, they are, and they're not. Like Major League Baseball, I think, is in a good spot because it's been very open and straightforward about how it's being handled in Canada all year.
That's true.
Like it's not like this was like kind of right. Like it's not like, and then like then you could say, well, Major League Baseball should have told us ahead of time that this is how it was going. Like no, it's been very open and public about how it's going to be handled, and so if you get to the postseason, like it's now like baseball can rest their heads easily and say, you know what, it's on your court because like we told you guys how it was going to play out and you haven't done shit about it, so that's on you. So for one time, I think we can probably not shit on Major League Baseball. They probably handled it kind of the right way. So we'll see how it goes.
I agree, for sure.
Yeah.
Two real quick things to end. Michael King for the Yankees fractures his elbow. He's done for the season.
Killer.
Right? I mean,
Frisbee slider finally caught up to him.
Brutal. And then to end on a happier note, did you guys see Klay Thompson chugging a beer after his brother hit a double for the Dodgers? So Trace Thompson is the brother of Klay Thompson, and Klay Thompson's behind home plate, and his brother hits a double off the wall, and then Klay just starts like on TikTok chugging a beer. Like it was
I love that.
Yeah, it was so cool. But he was going nuts, dude. But yeah.
We actually there's one prediction we missed, Nick.
What did we miss?
And that was your prediction. Do the Reds finish dead last in the league, or do the Nationals hold on?
Oh, Nationals hold on to last place for sure, I think. I mean, I hope to see my Reds win when I go and watch them, but I mean, at 32-65, I mean, that's the Nationals record. Reds are at 36-58. So, I mean, they're a good 4 games up on the Reds right now, or behind, up.
Yeah.
The Reds are up on the
Reds are up 4 games on the Nationals for worst record.
Yeah. So I think it's the Nationals now. It's theirs to win, to lose.
Whatever.
Yeah.
When you're 32-65, none of it matters.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they might not even get to that, that 50 mark, but yeah. And then the A's are 35-63. So those are the worst 2 right now. So the Reds are actually moving up the standings here. So good for them. But yeah. All right. Well, that was a lot of info on that show today. So yeah, please like, subscribe, share our podcast, chime in with us whenever we put out stuff. And we'll see you guys next week at